All right, Bulls and Bears. Hey, I hope you are well. We're back with another dose of economic reality. We've got some charts to look at today that are really concerning, in my opinion. And we're going to talk about some statistics here that are very accurate on predicting a major economic downturn, right? Nothing is 100%, nothing is guaranteed. But I think when you see this chart and this data here in this report today, you're going to start making some major preparations for something big to drop very soon. Now, this is different than what I've been saying over the past few years. Remember, ever since 2020, we saw all the stimulus, the rescue programs, the preventing the bubbles from bursting, blowing up the bubbles even bigger than they were. The bubbles, and talk about the real estate bubble, the cost of living bubble, even the price of automobiles. Even before 2020, those costs were highly disconnected from incomes. And then 2020 hit. Everybody knows what happened. Things went further into the stratosphere, right? Things should have crashed, but they did the opposite. I'm talking about the money creators. They did the opposite of what they did previously. Instead of cutting off the flow of money and instead of banks stopping the lending, they actually ramped it up. They increased the lending. They guaranteed everybody would be rescued, everybody would be made whole, so to speak. And that made the reverse happen. Instead of deflation, instead of a downturn, we saw massive inflation. And we're still feeling the effects as of today. The thing about it is, we told you that was going to happen. Even back then, we were one of the only channels to tell you that. So now I'm singing a different tune. So for those of you posting that I'm saying the same thing, no, this is completely different. If you go over my videos over the past few years, this is completely different. We're talking about a highly deflationary scenario with all the risks that are currently out there. Now, anything could happen. What happened in the past is not guaranteed to play out again. Um, People say this time is different is not something that anyone should say because history always repeats itself, right? Some people do say that. I say that history never repeats itself. It's always a little bit different. It's always somewhat different, sometimes even a lot different. History usually rhymes, but it never plays out exactly like it did previously, right? So let's go ahead and get into this here. I wanted to bring up this chart here, first of all. And what are we looking at here? Well, folks, this is the yield curve. And I'm sorry, this blinking light, I apologize. This blinking light back here is annoying me. There we go. Solid light here now. Uh, Sorry about that, Hope. So here's what's displayed in this chart. We've got the yield curve. It's been inverted for over 500 days. This is recently right here. See where my mouse is? We've only seen this three other times in history where the yield curve was inverted for this long. Those dates are 1974. I guess I should have started way back. 1929, right before the Great Depression, and 2008 financial crisis, basically the beginning of the financial crisis. So if history does repeat itself, and many people will say, yes, history is going to repeat itself again, it's just a matter of time. People will tell you it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But then you start to get doubtful on that when you see what's happened over the past few years, how, again, back in 2020, things should have came down, they should have crashed. And that would have been about the typical time frame for a downturn. It's usually about 8 to 12 years is typically, right? We saw, of course, 2008 happened. 2018 things started getting concerning. Of course, 2020, we know what happened, the rescue programs, everything else. So typically every 10 to 12 years, and now we're way beyond that. So we're way overdue. Just looking at the time frame, we're way overdue for a downturn. Again, it doesn't mean it's going to happen because they're throwing more money at this today than they did back then. So there you go. Things are different right there. We never did, prior to 2020, we never did what we did in 2020. We never had the type of moratoriums, the rescue programs, the rental eviction prevention programs, the stimulus checks that were sent out, the cancellations of payments and credit cards and utility bills, you name it. There was different types of programs to help people get through that. All those things were unprecedented, right? So people that say that history always repeats itself, that's definitely not the case because 2020 was different than any other period before that. It was unprecedented in the amount of stimulus and all the programs, right? Just want to make that clear because there are still people out there that think, okay, it happened before, it's got to happen again, right? People really think that. Even down in comments on this channel, they say that. They say it's just a matter of time. It's going to be worse than 2008. I can point out dozens of other channels and economic forecasters, saying the same thing. Oh, it's a matter of time. It's definitely going to happen. Folks, it doesn't have to happen. That's why you've got to prepare for both scenarios, right? Nothing is guaranteed, right? They could throw so much money at this thing. We could see this dollar go into hyperinflation, right? And there's people think out there that also think that that could never happen, that the dollar could never hyperinflate. And place your bets. If you think that's never going to happen, and if you think there's going to be a crash or deflation, if you think history always has to repeat itself, then you want to be in cash to prepare for the downturn, right? So, but if you do see inflation continue, you want to have something to go up with that cost of living and with that continued rise in inflation. I personally silver, most of you know. If you've been on this channel, that's one of my favorite ways to hedge against this. There's also real estate ETFs. If you think the housing market's going to be propped up by the powers that be, then you have ways to invest even without having to buy property. There's real estate ETFs out there. I personally am cautious about any online platform this year because of all the risks and the hacks and all the threats we've gotten from across the globe. And also here domestically, I'm very concerned about the possibility of any sort of digital asset that you have online that includes your banking account. That's digital, believe it or not, because the banks don't have the physical cash, right? There's less than 10% of the actual physical money out there. When you look at all the money that's in circulation right now, less than 10% of that's actually in physical form. So if something happens, you go to get your physical money, probably not going to be there, right? So just saying, you might want to get ready for that or prepare for that. And again, I'm not putting spooks out here or scares. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just saying these are possibilities. And in my assessment, these risks are higher now than they've been in a very, very long time. All right. So let's get into some other news here. I've got a few things pulled up here I wanted to talk about. Let's talk about what's happening over at McDonald's. Over at McDonald's here. Got this right here. We've got McDonald's taking out the fountain drinks. No more refills. And this is one McDonald's. I don't know if it's all McDonald's, but this is one they posted here. They removed the drink station at my local McDonald's. That's what this person is saying. This poster, no more free refills. You have to buy a second drink now. So it's not just that the costs are rising. It's things that used to be free, like free refills, are going away. Somebody said McDonald's is no longer cheap. Usually it isn't fast. Yeah, that's true. It's no longer fast food. It's slow and expensive. And definitely isn't healthy. Yeah, that's true. They'll be gone soon. That's what one poster to this poster, or one commenter to this post has put down here, especially since they cost as much now as a casual chain restaurant. Yeah, it's almost as much as like going to like trying to think of a sit down restaurant that I've been to lately. I don't go out as much as I used to. I'm struggling here to think of one. PF Chang's. Well, no, they've got to be cheaper than PF Chang's. Let's think of a Chipotle. Yeah, they're almost as expensive as Chipotle now. Anyways, you guys could do your own price checking and your dining out decisions here. Look at this here. This is out of Bloomberg. What the Fed's rate cut delay means for the U.S. in the world. So the fact that the Fed is not cutting rates, it's throwing a lot of investors into a headspin here. So they're basically they don't know what to do, right? We need easy money to keep this illusion of a growing economy alive. And when the easy money is threatened to be pulled away, which they're threatening now, they're not talking about rate cuts anymore. They're talking about how keeping rates higher for longer. Well, if something big does happen, if we see a big scare event, swan event, right, they'll be forced to cut rates, and that would be then justified. They could say, oh, look what happened. It's like a 2020 scenario. Look what happened. This is a worldwide crisis. This is a crisis on an unprecedented scale. We've got to cut rates, right? Something could happen to give the Fed the excuse to cut rates, even now, even in this inflationary environment where inflation is sticking around, it's higher for longer. Inflation's higher for longer and rates are higher for longer until the big excuse comes up. What's it going to be? All right. A lot of scenarios. Be ready for that. But something else I want to get into today, more layoffs. We're talking about Tesla. Tesla's layoffs, and they're laying off recruiters now. That's just the latest announcement in job cuts. the latest layoffs come after Tesla announced it was laying off more than 10% of its workforce on Sunday night and notified the first round of impacted U.S. employees that same night, according to two separate emails viewed by sort of Business Insider. So why are we talking about this? Because this shows you that a mania can turn to a bust. And we did see this electric vehicle mania, especially since 2020 when gas prices started going up with inflation. People ran, they surged to electric vehicles. So booms can turn to busts, and we're seeing in electric vehicles. Now, can that same thing happen when you look at the entire economy? Can this boom turn into a bust, or will they just find new ways to prevent the price correction, new ways to stop the bubble from deflating? Will they do more of the same in 2020, or even new things that we haven't even seen yet? Will they find new ways to keep this economic, I guess you can call it a boom, to keep this economic boom going and going and going like the Energizer Bunny? I mean, please let me know what you think about that down in comments. And something else that kind of caught my eye here, the California Association of Realtors CEO resigns, right? If the economy is booming, if real estate only goes up, and if everything's fine, the consumer is strong, there's going to be obviously demand for homes if the consumer is really strong, right? So then at this time, why would the California Association of Realtors CEO resign? Very good question. John Sebree has departed the trade organization in an announcement on Saturday. Association of Realtors said that he was resigning to, quote, pursue other opportunities, unquote. The question is why? Why would you do that? If the housing market's going to regain footing, as they're saying, prices are just going to continue marching upward because of the shortage. We're hearing about the shortage. Is there really a shortage? Some people say that's just a myth and that we're going to see this big housing crash. I mean, the crash should have happened 4 years ago, but again, they kept it propped up. They found ways to keep it propped up. They're still propping it up today. There's still provisions in place that are keeping the bubble inflated. When you look at the banks, when you look at how money is loaned out, when you look at the fractional reserve system, all that, right? All that's unprecedented. Again, things are a lot different now than they were during the financial crisis. So we have to talk about real estate. Obviously, that's the big one that most people remember from 2008, right? You know I'm going to be on top of all this here for you. You know this is the best place to get accurate information. I know a lot of the videos that are put out there, they do a lot of fancy editing and stuff like that, so they get a lot more views. But it's interesting, a lot of those videos with the real cool editing and stuff like that, if you look back, they've been completely wrong and backwards on what actually played out here in the economy, right? So I appreciate everybody coming back here to this channel. Please make sure you're still subscribed to keep us alive here. You know, this is not an easy environment to try to navigate, but I think we've been doing pretty well here, laying out exactly what's happening, all the latest news, things to look out for. Look out for that inverted yield curve, though. 500 days. Again, back to the beginning of the video, the only 3 times that's happened prior was 1929, Great Depression, financial crisis. So 2 out of the 3 times were really, really bad. Could this time be different? You let me know down in the comments what you think about it. And we'll see you here next time on the next video. Please join us. Keep stacking, everybody. Big love and peace. Bye.